Is feared drowned after falling into the sea off Shetland minutes after rescuing 10 crewmen from a stricken cargo vessel which struck rocks in gale force winds. The ship ran aground after her engines failed. 5 people were rescued from the boat by the Lerwick Lifeboat. The rest were winched aboard the Coast Guard helicopter. The cargo vessel Green Lily got into trouble off the Shetland island of Bressay. Tonight the boat is breaking up in force 10 gales. We're joined now from Bressay by the journalist Jonathan Wills. Jonathan, what happened during the rescue?
Well, I got there at the scene on the east side of Bressay, an uninhabited area about 1.5 miles from the road, just before 3 o'clock, as the helicopter was taking off the last of the men from the ship. The winchman was still aboard. I saw the helicopter lift the last man up into the safety of the door, and then turn, it seemed, to come round to take the winchman off. Now, at that moment, a big sea burst, and I couldn't see for spray for a while. Then I thought I saw someone on the wire, and then another sea burst, and when I looked again, there was the helicopter there, but no one on the wire. And that must have been when he fell into the sea. The conditions were extremely severe, about 20, 30-foot seas breaking. Very soon after the ship struck the sea and the air were full of fuel oil, it really was impossible that anyone could have survived, I think.
Now, we have been unable to get moving pictures out of the area because of the weather. However, we have got some stills of the rescued sailors. I think we can see them now. Jonathan, is the search continuing for the winchman? The
Coast Guard has said the search will continue until all help is gone. He was in full safety equipment. He had survival gear. If he was conscious, he would have had a chance, I think, of scrambling ashore. But just north of where the ship was and where he would have been blown towards is steep cliffs. He could be, he wouldn't really have any chance unless he could get to a beach, and the nearest beach is 1 mile north of there. The tide and the wind may have carried him that way, but we really don't know. People are still out looking, and here we never give up hope.
Jonathan, thank you. Well, a short time ago, my colleague Alec Crockhart spoke to Bob Driver, the regional controller for the Coast Guard at his headquarters in Aberdeen. He began by asking him what was the latest on the missing winchman.
Well, we haven't got precise details yet of what exactly happened, but he was lost overboard from the vessel, and in fact the winch wire was cut, and he was last seen in the water. We're now continuing the search with the Coast Guard helicopter again back on scene, and also an aircraft from RAF Lossiemouth.
Given the hurricane force winds, the high seas, and the fact that the vessel had grounded on the rocks at Bressay, what would his chances of survival be in those conditions?
It's very difficult to put times on survival, and it so much varies on the conditions. But we will carry on searching. It's one thing we do have plenty of is hope, and we'll carry on until all that hope is exhausted to try and recover the winchman.
What sort of equipment did he have?
Oh, he'll be fully dressed in survival suit with all the location aids and trained in survival, and the survival time will be something that we don't know. It would be guesswork.
There has been a suggestion that in fact the winch line had to be cut by the rest of the helicopter crew.
That would be normal practice if there was any snagging of the winch wire on the vessel.
And are you able to say whether that happened in this case?
That did happen. They had to cut the winch wire, but the circumstances of that we don't know at this stage.
The Coast Guard Bob Driver.
50-year-old Bill Deacon was on the deck of the freighter Green Lily when he was swept overboard near the Isle of Bressay in the Shetlands. There's been criticism of the way the ship's crew behaved.
In the brutal gloom of a North Sea storm, the wreck of the Green Lily is being torn apart. The helicopter winch operator was stranded aboard the freighter after he'd rescued 10 crew members. Attempts to lift him from the deck failed when the winch wire became entangled in the ship's superstructure and was severed. Within minutes, he'd been swept overboard. The coxswain of the local lifeboat says the crew failed to appreciate the gravity of their situation and took too long to abandon ship, waiting until she was just 200 metres from the rocks.
We were alongside before that, or ready to go alongside. But there was nobody there to come off. There was more interest in going on board down below and getting their belongings and take off. You'd think they were going on a picnic.
In Lerwick, the Filipino and Croatian crew of the Green Lily are recovering from their ordeal, aware the winchman died saving them. Bill Deacon, who was married with 2 children, had been filling in for a colleague. The wife of the man he replaced paid tribute to his courage.
They put their lives at risk to save others, and I think they're very brave men, and Billy died very bravely, saving the lives of so many men.
Appalling weather conditions hampered efforts to find and recover Mr. Deacon's body, but they have also broken up the slicks of fuel oil which had threatened to pollute parts of the Shetland coastline. And as the storm continues, there's now nothing left of the Green Lily but flotsam. Andrew Castle, BBC News.
Winchman, who's been praised as a hero, died in the rescue. From Lerwick, Rob Flett reports.
The stricken cargo vessel Green Lily was driven ashore by mountainous seas after losing power yesterday afternoon. The vessel is completely broken up and its wreckage is strewn along the Bressay coastline. Helicopter winchman Bill Deacon was swept from its deck shortly after rescuing the last of the crew. They are now recovering in Lerwick, where there's been criticism of the way they handled the incident.
There's more interest in going on board down below and getting their belongings and take off. You'd think they were going on a picnic.
There's been enormous praise for Bill Deacon's heroic actions in the rescue. Coastguards have stressed he wasn't attached to his line when it had to be cut.
They'd taken the 10 survivors off the vessel and the winchman was left on board. They then lowered the winch wire down again as normal practice, and then a huge wave hit the vessel and washed the winchman off the vessel's deck, and the winch wire snagged at the same time, and then it had to be cut too, otherwise it would jeopardise the safety of the aeroplane and crew.
The 15 crew members won't leave Shetland until they've been questioned by inspectors from the Marine Accident Investigation Branch. The ship's Norwegian operators have praised Bill Deacon's heroic actions in saving their crew from the wreck.